Hey friends, I'm rebroadcasting this one in case you missed it. Be sure to watch my RFK playlist for more. You probably have seen these headlines, and it is all about Health and Human Services Secretary Kennedy recommending that children get their measles vaccine. No surprise there, is it? Because he supports vaccines. He wants to see an increase in vaccine intake. And he also has said that vaccines have saved millions of lives and that vaccines will help create herd immunity. Now, what's interesting is that his recent remarks related to this outbreak of measles in Texas, these remarks were not listed on the CDC website. When I went to the CDC website, I could not find anything related to this statement, but there is a page all about measles. We're going to be looking briefly at what the CDC says, and then we're going to be looking at a wonderful document that I'm going to share with you. It's called Shining a Light on Measles, and it's from the Health Freedom Institute. Leave this link for you in my Substack, which is peggyhall.substack.com, so you can read it at length. What I would like to do is share with you Kennedy's comments, and I did highlight a few here. There are three main things that I want to share with you. And he wrote an op-ed for Fox News. It's interesting that this was not published as a CDC news release. So I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I am going to point out three main issues that jumped out at me. So he stated that vaccines not only protect individual children from measles, but also contribute to community immunity, meaning if I wear a raincoat, you don't have to, but you won't get wet from the rain because I'm already wearing a raincoat. And I also want to share with you the concept for your consideration that these childhood so-called diseases could actually be preventative for other health conditions down the line, including cancer. Here, Bob says, measles is a highly contagious respiratory illness with certain health risks, especially to unvaccinated individuals. And then he talks about how the virus spreads. He talks about the current Texas outbreak. And then he says that in response to this outbreak, I have directed the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, to work closely with the Texas health authorities to provide comprehensive support, including technical assistance, laboratory support, vaccines, and therapeutic medications as needed. Now, I do understand that he also recommended vitamin A. And in just a moment, we'll talk about his statement of reminding people that whether or not to be vaccinated is a personal choice. So I definitely am applauding those two statements, although I can't say for sure that I'm applauding the supplementation of vitamin A. I would have to dig a little more into that. He also stated, Bob said that we have shared responsibility to protect public health. Well, Bob, I would like to get a definition of public health because there's individual health. So if I have a rash, for example, or if I have a headache or whatever the case may be, I'm not quite sure how that is a public issue. There's individual health, absolutely. There's public sanitation, public safety. I would like to have a definition of public health, Bob. Then he goes on to say that he wants to make vaccines readily accessible for all those who want them. I'm glad that he included the qualifier for all those who want them. Let's make sure that we keep a copy of this page because sometime in the future, it might be that he requires everyone to get one, because in the past he said that he thinks that unwilling Americans should be forced to get these products if they are proven to be more helpful than harmful. Those are his words, friends. I've covered it for years. All right. This is another key point I wanted to highlight parents play a pivotal role in safeguarding their children's health. All parents should consult with their healthcare providers to understand their options to get the MMR vaccine. Remember, you can't just get a vaccine for the measles. It's measles, mumps, and rubella. Let me know if you got vaccinated, if your children got vaccinated, if anyone in your family got vaccinated. Now, I had the measles. I also had the mumps, and I also had chicken pox. And my belief is that God does not make mistakes, and that these may be more of a rite of passage for children more than a deadly disease. I do like that Bob included the phrase, the decision to vaccinate is a personal one. So I wholeheartedly applaud that statement. But then he goes on to say, vaccines not only protect individual children from measles, but also contribute to community immunity, meaning if you're selfish and afraid and you don't get vaccinated and you don't get your children vaccinated, you are harming the community. That's what I am concluding from this. Also, let me know if you have ever had a conversation with a doctor about vaccinating yourself or your children. Let me know if they are very understanding and responsive, or whether they are rather forceful, intimidating, and coercive. Just asking. Bob goes on to say that the measles outbreak in Texas is a call to action for all of us to reaffirm our commitment to public health by working together. Remember, friends, we are better together. Oh, we're also alone together, like they told us during the Cooties Hogwash. We can prevent future outbreaks and protect the health of our nation. Friends, not only is there individual health, there is public health, and there is national health. The country itself is healthy or not. That's why it's called Make America Healthy Again. They're going to make America healthy again. You may or may not have a choice in that. I don't exactly know how a country can be healthy or not. I do understand that individuals who live in the country can be healthy or not, but I don't understand why it's the government's responsibility to stick their nose in our business. Now, this also jumped out at me. Bob said, under my leadership, Health and Human Services is and will always be committed to radical transparency. Does that mean telling the truth? And then he says, to regain the public's trust in its health agencies. Friends, I've been telling you for years, this is exactly why Bob Kennedy was put in this position, it was for the bamboozle, to make sure that you would trust him, so that when he says, look, friends, we've done the testing, we've figured it out, these products are not only safe and effective, they are necessary, and you are required to take them because you can trust us. We're the government. And my job was to make you trust the government. That's what he's there for. So yeah, that is, there he is. Very, very trustworthy fellow. So at the CDC, it's all about measles is very contagious and can be serious. Anyone who is not protected against measles is at risk. 2 doses of the MMR provide the best protection against measles. Friends, I showed you in a video several days ago. I probably will replay that in case you missed it. There are over 100 doses of these jabs from childhood or even prior to that, if you're for pregnant women, to get these jabs all the way through to the age of 18, well over 100, because they work so well. You need many of them. So what happens with the measles is a fever and a rash, basically. You can also have a cough, runny nose, red, watery eyes. I did a little searching. The word measles comes from the Middle Dutch word mezel, which means blemish. So you have these little blemishes on your body. But I also found out, as I did some digging, that some of these so-called childhood diseases, conditions, I'm going to call them a rite of passage, could actually protect against cancer. Here we have something where the childhood chicken pox, meaning if you had chicken pox like I did, You could be protected against brain tumors. So I thought this was very interesting. Any parent of a child who has had the chickenpox will likely be quick to explain that it was not a pleasant experience. However, according to a recent study, the bumps and itching that the virus brings may offer a long-term benefit, protection against glioma. A history of chickenpox was associated with a 21% lower risk of glioma. One theory is that the antibodies may also have cross reactivity to tumor cells and other oncogenic viruses, meaning it's possible that these childhood stages are for a reason. Or do you think God made a mistake? I would like to leave you with this information, and this is from Health Freedom Institute. This is a wonderful document that you can download, that you can read, you can share with others. So they are also putting forth the same concept. What if childhood illnesses are like training wheels for our immune system? It's a basic premise of modern medicine that getting sick is bad. The human brain is hardwired to look for threats. So it's a lot easier to imagine what could go wrong than what could go right. But I'm just skimming through a little bit here, friends. What if there are benefits to illness that aren't immediately apparent? So, what could be the potential benefits of childhood illness? And I'm using that in quotes. I'm going to call it a stage, childhood stage. There could be lifelong immunity, prevention of more serious adult illnesses, and most illnesses tend to be milder in children than in adolescents or adults. Now, there's a lot to go into here that probably is not safe for YouTube. So I will leave this for you so that you can study and think more critically about measles. Thank you for being on board, everyone. As always, I will have these comments summarized for you in my Substack. It's a free publication, peggyhall.substack.com. Some of you have shown your support for me by upgrading to a paid subscription, and that is so appreciated.